You guys to a Friday watch party here on the watch list. You guys know how this operates. You know how this goes by now. And if you don't know how this goes by now, you're going to find out pretty soon because all the nerds are in the building super early. I was hanging out with you guys a little bit. I actually had like 10 minutes, bro. This is crazy. The technology worked today. I got flowing. Things were moving. Files were transferring like at the normal speed that I paid too much money for damn internet for. So I'm in a better mood than I was yesterday. So for those of you guys that don't know, or and if you're new here, it is Friday. I do have my drink. I'm gonna flash it for a second, but also I'm apologies that I wasn't here yesterday. We had technical issues, and when I say we, I mean me. So in me trying to organize and put everything together, as I figured out what was wrong, I had wasted a good 3 hours of prep time that I would have had to get things together to make sure you guys see what I'm talking about visually, so you don't just have to listen to me tell you the reality of the world. You just get a little bit of my perspective with it. So again, if you guys are new, like, subscribe, also share this stream if you're enjoying it so far. But also, if you're new here, this is Friday. We do know that Monday is the best damn day of the week. But quickly, can you see it? It gets dark when I do this. Quickly, we got a new one. If you guys are trying to figure out which energy drink I'm drinking on today, it's in the posts on YouTube. But I'm enjoying using the post feature on YouTube. Like, you get to post whatever, don't have to put up videos necessarily. And sadly, I just learned about it like a month ago. So I'm using it like crazy. But if you guys don't remember, I think it was last week, I did a full throttle energy drink. It was the black can. This one is the blue can. And even though it still looks like a MAGA t-shirt, we're going to see what this one does. So I'm glad you guys got your drinks together. Those of you that do, and those of you that don't partake, maybe you have some other substances. I don't know. That's your business. Unless you tell everyone in the chat, then it's everybody's business. Only because we've got lots to do today. Lots of fascism flowing. Matter of fact, the subject of this Donald Trump's fascist administration now is anti-fascist. Kind of always has been, but now it's getting to that point that we always told you that it would get to, that all those folks with Trump's derangement syndrome told you that it was going to get to. Not only them, but literally the president of the United States told you where this was going. He's going after anyone that he deems his political enemies. He's starting fights. He's trying to start conflicts in the streets so that he can then declare martial law. He can suspend elections, and that fascism will fully take hold. Let me tell you how they had this drumbeat towards coming up with new enemies that oddly, it's weird. It's like they said before, all include American citizens. Check out this 2.5 minutes of propaganda from this fascist administration.
Antifa beats journalists. Antifa attacks our police stations. They attack our courthouses. They dox our law enforcement officers. No more. They are a terrorist group, and we are coming after them.
We are here at the White House today to unmask Antifa, to follow the money all the way to the top. If you want to get to the bottom of who is fomenting this chaos and violence in our country, you must follow the money.
I was a mainstream reporter in Seattle for 10 years before I quit mainstream media, in part due to its refusal to acknowledge the dangers of Antifa and radical left-wing violence.
Part of the problem that we have is that a lot of people refuse to believe that Antifa is real. It is just a made-up thing, but I have seen them. They are real, they are dangerous, and they are violent.
They are an organized, systemic, international criminal enterprise. And what the FBI is going to do is trace the money, follow the funds, and find every single person that was involved in funding the riots and the violent acts of criminality that they are perpetrating on our street.
I've watched Antifa brutally beat, harass, and threaten Americans in the street, but all of that ends with the Trump administration.
I was brutally attacked and almost killed by Antifa in the streets of Seattle. All of my colleagues have been attacked. I can't think of a single one who hasn't. Violence against journalists and police officers in our streets can't stand.
Just days ago, I was in the Portland jailhouse, and now I'm in the White House. This administration is built different, and Antifa's days are numbered.
And I want to thank President Donald Trump for designating Antifa a terrorist organization, and I'm looking forward to the FBI and the DOJ hunting down these people like the terrorists that they are.
All I gotta say, it's a bad day to be Antifa.
And Antifa's days of using violence and intimidation against their political opposition are over.
And I've continued to report on them over the years, despite the threats of violence and actual violence that's happened, because I owe a thank you to this country, the United States, for settling my parents who were victims of communism in Vietnam.
1 month ago, Charlie Kirk was murdered by a violent leftist. We all saw it, and we all saw thousands of leftists celebrate it. Antifa symbols were found on the bullet casings of the gun used to shoot and kill my friend.
We won't take it anymore. President Trump is not going to stand for it. And I'm so grateful that we have a leader in the White House that understands how we need to fight these sophisticated networks and how we need to take these terrorists out.
I've been attacked by Antifa, doxxed by Antifa, harassed by Antifa, but we're not standing down. We're now coming for you.
Full-on propaganda from this fascist administration, mixing actual officials, the running these agencies, FBI director, the attorney general, Kristi Noem. So they're all mixing in these actual officials, talking all of this madness about who Antifa is, mixed in with these right-wing influencers, these folks that have been given access to go ahead and carry this same propaganda throughout as many MAGA folks as possible. They're building their Hitler youth. The connections are still from, as we saw Jack Posobiec there mention his friend Charlie Kirk. This is their vision. This is what they wanted to use this for. This is the now calling, as Pam Bondi said, a terrorist group. Where are they? Oh, we're trying to uncover them. Oh, actually, we've been fighting them since forever. Believe me, believe us. Let's go back to our standard starting point for anything that this administration says. Prove it, bro. Always see our lies. So as they're out in the streets claiming that Portland is a war zone, Chicago's a war zone, Los Angeles war zone, Memphis, I guess, next war zone, everywhere that they seem to be putting military war machines and people in fatigues is where war keeps happening in their minds, and apparently in the people that they're pushing this propaganda to. So maybe since they had this whole Antifa roundtable the other day, yesterday, I believe it was, Donald Trump, he revealed a little bit, even though this wasn't necessarily at that roundtable, he revealed a little bit as how this whole thing formed, this designation of Antifa, which, in case you don't know, anti-fascists are their enemies, so that makes them fascists. This is how the whole thing came together, as cartoonish as it may sound. This is how he makes decisions that are very dangerous for most people.
Are you going to work with your administration as the Secretary of State's here? Are you going to work with your administration to designate it a foreign terror organization?
You mean a terror?
Antifa? A foreign terror organization.
Well, has that been done? Pretty close, right? Would you like to see it done?
Yes, Mr. President.
You think it would help?
They have foreign links
I'd be glad
all
to
across
do it. I
Western
think it's
Europe.
the kind of thing I'd like to do. If you'd like, does
Middle
everybody
East.
agree? If you agree, I agree. Let's get it done. Okay, let's get it done. Marco, we'll take care of it.
Mr. President.
That's international, you mean?
Yes.
International.
Mr. President.
Sounds good to me.
Foreign terror organization.
Steve, are you okay with it?
Yes, it's true. There are extensive foreign ties, and I think that would be a very valid step to take.
Good, I think so too.
Yes.
Good, I think it's a good point. Thank you.
Donald Trump apparently designated Antifa a foreign. The question was, are you going to designate them a foreign terrorist organization? They don't even know what the fuck they're talking about. A foreign terrorist organization, while at the same time as a domestic terror organization. Who knows? We're going to label anybody that we dislike or said something, weaponizing and criminalizing opposition and First Amendment free speech rights to just claim that they're part of a terror organization. And, it gets designated apparently like, you choose what pizza they're having. So they're sitting around the round table. It's like, you guys, Pizza Hut or Domino's today? Who wants pepperoni and mushroom? Oh, man, I don't like Hawaiian. What do you think, Marco? Hey, what do you think, Jack? Yeah, I mean, it sounds good to me. Let's do it. Have we done it yet? Let's go. Let's do it. How stupid is this? How dumb are these people? That's how they designate a terror organization. I'm sorry, a foreign terror organization that's compiled of American citizens that they're going to claim are terrorists so they can start killing them more than they already have been before. So again, like I said off the top, all those folks that were doing their back and forth and the actual officials saying their lines to try and push this narrative, we also listen to the way Pam Bondi goes about talking about this terror organization. The music behind that first opening video was pretty stark enough, but they have to also come with the strongest language possible to talk about how horrible this is.
just arresting the violent criminals we can see in the streets. Fighting crime is more than just getting the bad guy off the streets. It's breaking down the organization brick by brick. Just like we did with cartels, we're going to take the same approach, President Trump, with Antifa. Destroy the entire organization from top to bottom. We're going to take them apart. Thanks to your bold leadership and the designation of Antifa as a terrorist organization, which is exactly what they are, Americans will no longer tolerate their unhinged violence. Thank you. We're not going to
top from bottom, brick by brick. President Trump, we trust you for this. He just kind of figured it out as he passed the hat around about should we name them this now? It's a clown show. But again, the language that's being used is everything that we've seen and heard before to talk about how dangerous and how we're going to get, but we're spending Americans' taxpayer dollars to go about going and infiltrating regular people and deeming them whatever it is they want. Let me remind you, this whole thing with the immigration policy started with saying we're going after the worst of the worst, the criminals, the rapists, the drug dealers, the murderers, and not even now, but from the beginning, they've been going after anybody that they deem illegal. Doesn't matter. They've disregarded any of their processes for documentation for being in this country. They've disregarded people who have been longstanding citizens here. They don't care. Why would it change now when they're talking about now targeting American citizens, as this president said he would from the beginning of this now term? Why would that change now with the way that they talk about who the violent people are? It didn't stop with her. It also bled more into Kristi Noem.
Stories and for being able and willing to go to the streets and to cover what's happening here in America. Many times the legacy media has looked the other way, refused to tell the stories. The networks have not really focused on what this is and what damage it is doing to our country, and how this network of Antifa is just as sophisticated as MS-13, as TDA, as ISIS, as Hezbollah, as Hamas, as all of them. They are just as dangerous. They have an agenda to destroy us, just like the other terrorists we've dealt with for many, many years. And today is the day that we have a president that won't tolerate it and will stand up and fight for the American people. So thank you for being here, for being so bold, and for standing in the gap at such a time as this. It will matter. It will make a difference, and your life will be one of significance because of what you've done today. So with that, God bless you, and thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you very
much. Stories.
That's how it works. They're the same as Hezbollah, Hamas, who else? The MS-13, TDA, ISIS. Just throw shit out there and try and figure out how much more you can scare the people that, first of all, are gullible, and then also convince the people who are on board for being part of your foot soldiers to be like, yo, this is lawlessness in our favor. This is great. Let's go attack people and claim that they're dangerous, like foreign terror cells. That's the idea. That's the drumbeat. It's consistent and it's very direct, the kind of talk that they're doing. Those are his associates. Those are some of his right-hand men and women. Here's Trump talking about how much higher up they're going to go. I think this leads to what it was that Pam Bondi was also saying, brick by brick, top to bottom. Think about who it is that they're encompassing and who they're talking about targeting based off of literally nothing.
These are agitators, anarchists, and they're paid. And you'll find that out. You'll be finding it out very soon. You should see what we have on these people. These are bad people. These are people that want to destroy our country. We're not going to let it happen. They've used armed gangs to assault local police in cities nationwide, and they've attacked journalists reporting on their crimes. So the journalists that report on their crimes, don't worry, you're very safe. I hope that's not going to turn you around, but they have been very threatening to people, but we're going to be very threatening to them, far more threatening to them than they ever were with us. And that includes the people that fund them. Probably some of the people I know, some of the people I dine with. But if they do, they're in deep trouble. So we're going to be looking very strongly at the people that are funding these operations. When you see the signs, and they're all made out of a beautiful, beautiful paper, beautiful, nice, stiff, very expensive paper with beautiful wood handles, all the same color. They come from very expensive printing machines. These are not people that write out their signs in abasement that believe in something. These are paid anarchists.
He's going after the funders is his main point. But first, one of the reasons behind his proof of this well-funded multi-billion dollars, I guess George Soros is paying for this too, is because they don't have scratched pieces of paper that they're holding signs up with. You know, that paper was a little bit too, it was card stock of like 2. I don't even know what the card stock of 2 is, and neither does he. They got wooden handles. They're supposed to have like paper handles, bro. Shouldn't they hold their signs with straws? Signs. He's literally talking about the danger of some kind of group that he's calling Antifa, that is some terror cell network. And his basis of what he's afraid of are some motherfucking signs. The signs are just way too expensive for me. I can't understand it. You know what? They must be getting funded by people that he dines with. Think about the connections they continue to make. Anybody that's of any kind of importance or has money that are at his level or have some kind of influence, he's going to start labeling them, more of his political enemies, as being the funders of this made up grouping of terror cells that they keep saying is infiltrated the country. He also did mention there that these armed gangs are attacking local police. You'll see soon that they also don't care about local police. Maybe this other moment from Kristi Noem can provide us some comic relief. They go so far with the characterizations and the propaganda, they kind of run out of things to say. So in order to continue to please, you know, this man-child dictator, Kristi Noem went this far.
They have been so bold in making sure we're bringing those individuals to justice. One of the individuals we arrested recently in Portland was the girlfriend of one of the founders of Antifa, and that we are hoping that as we go after her, interview her, and prosecute her, we will get more and more information about the network and how we can root them out and eliminate them from the existence of American society.
The case is cracked. It's wide open. Kristi Noem, they tracked down the girlfriend of one of the founders of Antifa. You know, they had a big meeting and the girlfriend was there and she was hanging out and she was about to start, you know, a sister cell called Antifa Her or something like that. And we've already busted her. So there's no way that she's going to have a chance to open up that next terror cell. The girlfriend of the founder of Antifa. I was going to say they think that their supporters are this stupid, but it's pretty obvious that they know their supporters are this stupid or this willing to try and carry this type of very flimsy explanations and characterizations and proof and evidence that they say they have that they won't say anything about in order to get them on board for the violence that they're pushing on the country. Everywhere that there's violence, they're committing it, they're sparking it, and they know enough people are going to be like, F this. I'm not going to keep letting you shoot me with pepper ball guns and punch me in the face and rip away people that are American citizens and throw them in jails and you never see them again. Of course, people are going to start fighting back. And that's their whole plan. We told you they're violent. Look, they're actually attacking us before we can kill them. So last point here, at least on the first level of their BS. You guys remember when I was pointing out how Donald Trump just a couple minutes ago, how he said these Antifa types are attacking local police, harming them because, you know, the MAGA party backs the blue. That is until Kristi Noem says that the blue is part of the problem too.
And I was in Portland, went out and back on Tuesday and met with the governor, met with the mayor, met with the chief of police and the superintendent of the highway patrol. They are all lying and disingenuous and dishonest people because as soon as you leave the room, then they make the exact opposite response. So we're looking at new facilities to purchase. They're in Portland too, and we're going to double down. And I told them if they didn't meet our demands for safety and security on the streets and work with us, then we were going to bring in more federal law enforcement. So I want to thank Pete and the Department of War for all their help. They've been fantastic. But when I was in Portland,
she says the governor, the mayor, chief of police, they're all disingenuous and dishonest. Those are their enemies now. every elected official in states and in cities that they want to take over and occupy with his militarized military state that he's trying to push into any city that he thinks are going to push back on his fascism are the enemies. She talked about how they have demands for local cities and different states. What kind of demands are you supposed to have as the administration in the federal level in the United States of America? I remember Republicans used to talk about states' rights. Imagine what they're saying now. They have demands for other cities as they go and attack them. We got to start purchasing other things because, they're kind of locking us out, kind of having, their rights. They're trying to uphold the rights of their citizens. And as we come to attack them, we have more demands. I don't think enough people are talking about it. So as this is going to come to a head, because they're attacking people and they're designating them random terror groups, it's the fights are going to be coming. That's what they're looking for. But what no one's going to talk about is how Tucker Carlson, huge conservative, said that civil disobedience of this type is going to be necessary now. He said, if there's no other time, it's going to be when this happens. Wonder when they're going to start calling Tucker Carlson Antifa. Because the second half, I'm not sure it's even the half, but one of the main purposes of this whole Antifa meeting was to have some of these right-wing influencers and fake journalists and people that have been pushing this narrative, honestly, for a few years now. And they're finally been given some access to push these narratives. So maybe they could have this mesh of these fascists that have been taking over the country from the federal level to then acting like these are people in the streets that really know what's going on. One of those folks, her name is Katie Davis Court. I had seen her face and I didn't really know why, but I don't know if you guys saw one of those far off shots. Jack Posobiec was there, who's another right-wing podcaster who's been lying for a long time. They had all of them collected there to come and talk about how dangerous Antifa is. I keep wanting to say it's comical, but it's way too serious to be funny. Even though she talks like this.
I'm an investigative journalist from Seattle. I work for the Post Millennial alongside Andy No and Jack Posobiec. I have been infiltrating Antifa cells in Seattle and Portland for the past decade. I know their inner workings, and Antifa uses extreme political violence to crush the civil rights of their political enemies and believes that violence is justified by any means necessary. But today, I want to focus on what is happening in Portland at the ICE facility. I've been covering this for the past 4 months, and this is a call out to corporate media who has completely ignored this story or has falsely reported on it. This is nothing short other than a sustained attack on the United States, which is being supported by Democratic elected officials. The Portland Police Bureau has completely abandoned several blocks outside the ICE facility, giving away their jurisdiction to a terrorist group who has spent the past 4 months harassing, assaulting, and intimidating anyone they perceive to be against their cause. Not only have federal agents been relentlessly assaulted for more than 100 consecutive days, black-clad anarchist militants concealing their identities behind black facial coverings have been assaulting reporters just for trying to cover their crimes. Today, I am sitting here with a black eye and a concussion after being violently hit in the face with a metal pole while reporting outside the ICE facility just this past week. After the attack, I immediately went to three Portland police officers who refused to detain the suspect. I took the time to chase down the suspect in the streets, had her held for 35 minutes. I was waiting for Portland police to come, and they never came.
Katie Davis Court was there to push a bunch of propaganda. Katie Davis Court has been infiltrating Antifa for a decade. And as she was out in the streets, she caught a black guy. The police, again, I want you guys to see this narrative that continues. It's not just the people in the streets. It's local police for each of these cities that refuses to comply with and assist them in their hostilities towards citizens of that city. It's like they're kind of doing their job. So when this federal army of ragtag Proud Boys or whoever else that he compiled to put together to come in these cities comes and gets to attacking and fights break out, it always has to be those local police problems who wouldn't answer her calls. I guess it's the first time for everything, but it's definitely something that too many citizens in this country have experienced already. Police ignoring the calls and not doing anything about crimes being committed against them, primarily, by folks like her. But that's her explanation for what's going on. And these police are totally not on her side. Here's the back end of her explanation on that. And it digs a little bit deeper.
Today, I am sitting here with a black eye and a concussion after being violently hit in the face with a metal pole while reporting outside the ICE facility just this past week. After the attack, I immediately went to three Portland police officers who refused to detain the suspect. I took the time to chase down the suspect in the streets, had her held for 35 minutes. I was waiting for Portland police to come, and they never came. Then that's what opened my eyes to what this group is actually doing. I watched 20 Antifa militants help my assault suspect escape into an Antifa safe house that is 1 block away from the ICE facility. And this safe house is where Antifa affiliated protesters are conducting paramilitary operations. It's where they're arresting, they're showering, they're eating to continue this occupation. I have staked out this safe house and have observed shift changes. This group is highly organized. It is being funded through mutual aid groups, and they have no plans of stopping. Residents living across the ICE facility have been held hostage by Antifa. They're begging for federal intervention. The city refuses to help, and they want you, President Trump, to come in and restore law and order.
Weird how she's suddenly speaking for an entire city, but based off of the conflicts that she's getting into consistently. She couldn't even finish reading her list correctly. She was thinking it was like parliamentary. She's like a paramilitary. That's what they wrote down for me to say. But for some reason, she's been staking out this safe house. They're showering there, they're eating there, they're hanging out. Man, they're playing board games, bro. They're just having fun and hanging out. And every once in a while, they step out and start assaulting regular citizens, and ICE agents that are just, trying to do the honest work of Donald Trump. You have to literally flip our entire reality on its head to listen to these folks and actually take it as anything else but cartoonish propaganda. So much so, again, they got invited to the White House. I think one of the folks in the opening video was saying that. Let me show you how serious and upset Katie Davis Court is. This is some of the posts that she put up. Oh, look, she said, what an honor getting invited to the White House to brief President Trump on Antifa with an exclamation point. Antifa is so funny. Maybe I'll get invited. It'll be fun. It's fun times to talk about Antifa and how you almost died, right? They're so serious, except it almost looks like they're at like a prom. So excited to be there. Here's more of the post. She had a full photo album put out. She was squad, and she mentioned Andy No and Jack Posobiec because they're just hanging out at the White House having tons of fun. It's such a serious subject. They also had a perspective shot that she took where she's sitting in front of this murderer's row of fascists in this administration. They're very proud to be in this position to try and influence policy to kill Americans and create more division so they could have their white supremacist takeover that they've always dreamed of. The things that they think are supposed to be running this country. If you haven't noticed yet, that's the only approach that they've had. It's the only thing, that's one of the main objectives here. But it's all based in these lies. I want you guys to see this, one of these other folks outside of Katie Davis Court. His name is Jonathan Cho. And you'll see some of the connections that they're trying to make, some of the other ways they're trying to justify these actions. It's weird how they always go for the least powerful and the most vulnerable people in the country. Listen to this guy's pitch as to the organization of what Antifa is doing.
I cover far left extremism as well as the homeless drug crisis in America. And I find it oftentimes those worlds intersect. And hot off the presses, what I wanted to bring to your attention today is a report from a Capital Research Center here in DC in conjunction with Discovery Institute. They just put out this study right now. And what it shows is that Antifa is heavily embedded in the homeless and housing nonprofit sector. In many cases, the homeless industrial complex is running cover for Antifa. Antifa is benefiting from American tax dollars, and they're essentially being used as the muscle. Let me give you an example. There's a group called Stop the Sweeps in many US cities right now. They get in front of encampment sweeps. What they're doing quietly is they're bringing in Antifa militants to manufacture a crisis to make the police look bad. Another group right now that is behind Antifa and working with Antifa very closely, based on the research that we have right now that we're going to give to you and your team, are the Democratic Socialists of America, also known as DSA. Again, these far left progressive groups tend to be aligning themselves with Antifa. So finally, in closing, what I wanted to thank you again, Mr. President, is that a few months ago, earlier this year, you put out an executive order on homelessness and the drug addiction crisis in America, and that's sent the entire homeless industrial complex on the run. You have absolutely moved the needle and changed the game. But what's also come out, again, is that there is a connection, a deeply embedded connection with the homeless housing nonprofit game in America, connected to Antifa and the far left activists. And finally, I just wanted to say that all of our resources at Turning Point USA and Discovery Institute are at your disposal. And we will continue again to carry on the legacy of Charlie Kirk. He would have wanted us to pursue and chase the story.
All you have to do is listen. All you have to do is listen. Suddenly the homeless have teamed up with Antifa. Antifa is the muscle. And this, the homeless industrial complex. Nothing about, there's no military industrial complex. There's no folks that are making money off of incarcerating people. There's no private prison industrial complex. None of those things exist. There's the homeless industrial complex partnering up with a bunch of the nonprofit sector that's looking to protect the most vulnerable people, unhoused folks that have been the victims of our system, our rabid capitalistic society since forever. Many of which include veterans who get screwed over after they serve this country that we've already seen them not give a damn about. Maybe this is the reason why Brian Kilmeade didn't get fired or even reprimanded over announcing and promoting and asking for someone to kill some homeless folks. That is, right before someone decided to go try and kill some homeless folks. But this guy wants to talk about how there's a homeless drug crisis with no indication as to why folks are on drugs, why folks become homeless. We just have to kill them. And this is what it partners up with. Anybody who tries to block or stop the things like Donald Trump's orders to go and sweep homeless encampments up because, they're trying to kill everyone, that they're suddenly Antifa too. Nonprofit organizations, people who care about these folks, who are trying to do something to change our country for the better, are terrorists. That's what that guy's there for. That's what that other woman, Davis Court, is there for. They're saying it to your face. This is the plan. It's over on Fox News. Last on Antifa, I promise. You always need the state-run media to wrap this up in a nice, tight bow. And Laura Ingraham is always willing to do it.
But first, they're all Antifa now. That's the focus of tonight's angle. Now, before the Trump assassination attempts and the killing of Charlie Kirk, before ICE facilities were under siege in LA and agents pinned down in Chicago, political violence seemed limited to places like, but
there's the message. They're all Antifa now. She couldn't even say it because she's reading the prompt of what someone fed to her to talk about to push her daily propaganda of Donald Trump's fascism. They're all Antifa. Who is the they? They is anybody that they want they to be. That's why they're doing all this. So again, if you're buying any of the bullshit, how are those grocery prices going? How are the housing prices going? How's that trade war going? How are your businesses doing? How's the job market working out for you? They're spending money, resources, and energy to talk about Antifa because they're looking to go after more of Donald Trump's perceived enemies. His enemies are anybody who's not fascist. That's all. So speaking of that economy and speaking of this government shutdown that I think we're in like 9th day or so right now, this Republican Party is losing the battle. Every time there's a government shutdown, it's the same thing. I hear it a lot. Democrats talk about whose fault it is. Republicans talk about whose fault it is. And we have this battle back and forth. The American people start losing interest and start getting mad at everyone. Eventually gets settled. No one remembers why or how it gets settled, but we just move on to the next. This one feels a little bit different, mostly because this administration that's running this country keeps blathering about how they're happy about it while they blame Democrats for it. They're losing the discussion and the debate over the healthcare crisis that's about to explode further in their faces. That's a direct indication of that bill that they signed that they said was so wonderful. And for some reason, dumbass Mike Johnson keeps going on TV thinking that his smarmy face is going to convince anyone that what he's saying is true. But he went on C-SPAN. Maybe you guys saw this interaction he had with this woman who called in and was talking about, she's a military wife, and the situation that they're about to face as this government stays shut.
Hi, Mr. Johnson. So my question or comments are related to what you said yesterday about not being open to pass any legislation to ensure that military gets paid. I'm sure you can tell by my voice I'm very shaky. Just want you to hear a little bit about my family. I have 2 medically fragile children. I have a husband who actively serves this country. He suffers from PTSD from his 2 tours in Afghanistan. If we see a lapse in pay come the 15th, my children do not get to get the medication that's needed for them to live their life, because we live paycheck to paycheck. I heard you earlier say that you side with President Trump on anything that he says. Well, I just read an article this morning that said he absolutely wholeheartedly believes that there needs to be legislation put in so that we do not miss a paycheck. You have the power to do that. And as a Republican, I'm very disappointed in my party, and I'm very disappointed in you, because you do have the power to call the House back. You did that, or you refused to do that just for a show. I'm begging you to pass this legislation. My kids could die. We don't have the credit because of the medical bills that I have to pay regularly. You could stop this, and you could be the one that could say military is getting paid. And I think that it is awful, and the audacity of someone who makes 6 figures a year to do this to military families is insane.
All right, Samantha.
All right, Samantha. All right, damn, you got his ass already, cut his ass up. But that's based off of a real life situation. The types of things that these Republicans who are playing politics with every aspect of everything that they do continue to forget and neglect. There's always talking points about how politicians are so far detached from American people, and most of them are true. It doesn't matter which party you're talking about, the majority of them. But as you see someone have to face and listen to someone in real time tell them how detached he is because he doesn't give a damn about her life or her children's life, you see that same face, that snake going, So he's in his internal thoughts. He's like, man, how long is she going to be kicking my ass around before I can come up with some bullshit answer to make it seem like I care, when it's very obvious I'm contorting my face into positions trying. Such a problem for you. I'm so sorry, Samantha. Here's his bullshit answer, by the way.
The reason I've been so angry this week, and they've been calling me out on media, Johnson's angry. I am angry because of situations just like yours. I have a big military district, and my district is the home of the Global Strike Command at Barksdale Air Force Base and in Fort Polk, the Joint Readiness Training Center. I have one of the biggest military districts and military families in America. I have a lot of airmen and soldiers who are deployed right now, and they have young families at home, and they have children in health situations like yours. This is what keeps me up at night. I want you to hear something very clearly. The Republicans are the ones delivering for you. We had a vote to pay the troops. It was the continuing resolution 3 weeks ago. Every single Republican but 2 voted to keep the government open so that your paycheck can flow. Every Democrat in the House, except for 1, voted to close it. The Democrats are the ones that are preventing you from getting a check. If we did another a vote on the floor, pay troops, it's not a lawmaking exercise, because Chuck Schumer is going to hold that up in the Senate. He is demonstrating by voting now 6 times to keep the government closed, that he does not want the troops to be paid. And you should listen to his comments last night, as reported this morning. He is enjoying this. He said every day gets better for us, quote unquote. Chuck Schumer and the Democrats are preventing your family from getting the care they need, not Republicans. And my heart goes out to you.
His heart does not go out to her at all. His whole purpose is to try and continue to push these politics. He literally can't think any other way. He can't even come up with any way to actually act like he cares about what is that she's going through. I bet he couldn't even recite to her what it is that she had an issue with. I bet he doesn't even realize that she mentioned her children. I guarantee you he has no idea. That whole time he's like, okay, how can I formulate this to blame Democrats for this shutdown? Or ignore the fact that they're winning this debate over this healthcare issue that's been adjudicated and it's clear as day. In fact, we were talking about it when they were about to pass that bill, and now it's right in our faces. Now that we're looking at it, the whole purpose is to say it's their fault, it's their fault, it's their fault, completely ignoring what is that we're seeing. How is it that it's their fault? And all of these issues that many folks are having, from military families to regular folks to businesses to federal employees, when they hear this guy that Mike Johnson answers and bows down to, continue to say things like this.
It's early, but it gets a little bit worse as it goes along. And we'll be making cuts that will be permanent. And we're only going to cut Democrat programs. I hate to tell you, I guess that makes sense, but we're only cutting Democrat programs. But we're going to start that. And we have Russell, we can talk to you about it if he wants to, but we'll be cutting some very popular Democrat programs that aren't popular with Republicans, frankly, because that's the way it works. They wanted to do this, so we'll give them a little taste of their own medicine. But Chuck Schumer, it's early.
Is that how you want the country run? We're going to cut Democrat programs to give them a taste of their own medicine. What medicine do you think he's talking about? You mean that time that a Democratic president, there was a government shutdown and they said, we're going to start cutting Republican programs to give them a taste. I mean, sorry, not even taste their own medicine. This is the taste of somebody's medicine. You know, our Democrats, if there's a shutdown, they go, let's just shut down and cut Republican programs, Republican folks who work in the federal government. What does that mean? What are Democratic programs? The ones that they've been cutting ever since this guy got into office? What are Republican programs that are from the federal level? Things that they like. I remember when someone, any politician, didn't come off as being a unifier, especially from the White House, that they were seen as a divisive, bad president. Everything, 100% of the things this guy says is it's Biden's fault. It's Democrats' fault. They're evil. They're fascist. They're bigoted. Everything that they say is based off of hating this other side that's doing, by the way, winning this debate over what's about to happen with healthcare. So much so, they're not even really having that fight anymore. They're just saying, we can debate this after we're back in session. As long as we're back in session, we can debate this further. We've been debating it. We already know where your stance is. It's fuck those American citizens and their healthcare. We've already seen it. So John Thune, the guy who's supposed to schedule these votes and the guy that can actually be part of negotiating some of these things that can end this, he's reverted on to talking about how bad the ACA is, rather than talking about how bad their bill is that's going to destroy more people's lives.
The president would like to overhaul Obamacare and give people health insurance that is higher quality and more affordable, but you've got Obamacare now embedded for the last 15 years.
We're back to Obamacare. What low-cost, great healthcare is Donald Trump going to implement? They asked him about it during the campaign at that debate, when he said he's got like remnants of a plan. I forget the exact quote. He's got ideals of a plan. He's got a framework. It's something like that. This is what they're now saying is the next best answer. But I want to surprise you guys with someone. I'm not that surprised, but maybe you'll be surprised by this someone. She weighed in on whose fault this is and the reasons why.
Ask you about this new Washington Post poll. It shows that 47% of Americans believe that President Trump and the Republicans are mainly responsible for the shutdown. You see it here on the screen, compared to just 30% of Americans who blame Democrats. Of course, Republicans are the ones with the power. Do you agree with Americans in that poll that see the shutdown as your party's fault?
You know what? I don't think the shutdown is popular for either side. And so I see the shutdown completely different from maybe my party leadership. And I'm not putting the blame on the president. I'm actually putting the blame on the speaker and Leader Thune in the Senate. This should not be happening. And I don't think, look, as a member of Congress, we already have a low enough job approval rating. This shutdown is just going to drive everybody's approval rating that much lower.
But so you're putting the blame on the leadership of your party.
Absolutely. We control the House. We control the Senate. We have the White House. I've been vocal saying, you can use the nuclear option in the Senate. This doesn't have to be a shutdown. But what we have to do is we have to work for the American people.
Marjorie Taylor Greene is putting the blame on her party's leadership. This is where I wasn't surprised. Well, first of all, the surprise obviously is that she's putting the blame on Republicans. The where there's zero surprise is her saying it's not the president's fault. It's not Donald Trump's fault. This is where the line continues to be drawn with her, and this is what I keep seeing and hearing from her. Every time someone wants to praise Marjorie Taylor Greene for saying something that makes some sense, it goes right back to, but I think that Trump is getting some bad advice. I think the dictator in the White House is getting some bad advice. I think he's actually listening to someone. No, he's not. This guy is the head of the party. This guy is the reasons why everyone's acting like a bunch of mini Donald Trumps is because he tells them what to do. And if they don't do it, he threatens them, kicks them the hell out of the party, and does what he's about to do to her. Gotta be honest. So there was questions that are being asked about what's wrong with Marjorie Taylor Greene. I would assume that's the questions that should be asked because she's supposed to be towing the line and she's beginning to get out of line.
There's reporting that President Trump, as you know, recently called at least 2 senior Republicans to ask, and I'm quoting now from these reports, what's going on with Marjorie, end quote. Have you talked to the president about this issue personally? It's obviously so personal for you.
Well, the president has my cell phone number and he's called me many, many times. So if he wants
recently, how recent?
I don't get into that kind of details, but he knows how to call me and he can ask me himself. But here's the deal. There's also this, and I'm not blaming you guys, but there is a media narrative trying to say that I don't support the president. I absolutely support the president. I campaigned for him for years. But I'm also an action person, and I want my party to solve problems.
And you say he's not getting good advice, though. You told Manu Raju. What specifically?
Well, I don't think it's good advice that a government shutdown is going to help Republicans in the midterms. I don't agree with that. I also don't think it's good advice that Republicans ignoring the health insurance crisis is going to be good for midterms. I actually think that would be very bad for midterms. And I think that just not staying focused on America First policies is detrimental as well.
Yeah, and on that note, are you concerned about the cost of living? Are you
very
that the President Trump said he would lower?
The inflation crushed people in the past 4.5 years, and the costs have not come down. I myself can tell you my apartment here in Washington, D.C., the electricity bill is $100 more than it was last year, because you can look at your own bill and look at cost. Prices have not come down. That is a reality. People's wages have not gone up. That's another reality. And so Americans are continuing to have a very difficult time getting by. And I'll go a step further. I'm a mom. And so when it comes to what is affecting my adult children's lives, who are 22, 26, and 28, I'm going to be 1,000% fighting for them over any politician and any party. And I can tell you right now, that generation, they are barely making it, and they're very hopeless for their future.
Isn't it weird how Marjorie Taylor Greene suddenly is talking about the plight of the next generation of adults, young adults, because her kids are struggling, or her kids don't see a way of becoming multimillionaires based off of using the system the way that she did. Now, once it hits home, I remember when anybody would talk about young folks, people that are in college or something, how if they don't have much of many job opportunities or openings in certain fields as they get out because of how we're destroying the economy and give more money to rich folks who do nothing but hoard it and eliminate more jobs. I remember whenever anybody would talk about that, it was, why don't you tell these lazy liberal arts majors to do a real job? But now Marjorie Taylor Greene is concerned about her kids. That's where the shift is beginning. Isn't it weird? There's mindsets of these types of folks. So this is what's happened to Marjorie Taylor Greene since Donald Trump keeps asking, what's wrong with Marge? Marge is having an issue with her own family actually getting the kind of opportunities that they thought they'd get. Maybe they're too busy being art majors. Maybe they paint too much. That was the dismissive approach in the comments every time anybody else would talk about this. So now Marge is concerned about her family. So now she's finally bringing up the good fight, but still can't really blame Donald Trump. Or can she? She's still talking.
I certainly support the president, but I'm not what would be the right way to say it. I'm not some sort of blind slave to the president, and I don't think anyone should. I serve in Congress. We are a separate branch of the government, and I'm not elected by the president. I'm not elected by anyone that works in the White House. I'm elected by my district. That's who I work for, and I got elected without the president's endorsement. And, you know, I think that has served me really well. So I get to be independent as a Republican. And I think what helps him the most is when he has people that are willing to be honest with him and not just tell him what they think he wants to hear.
I voted for Dan.
That back end was the tagline from that source. Marjorie Taylor Greene does not blindly support Donald Trump like a blind slave, she says. She's beginning to turn. She's getting there. It's taken her a while. I think she's still somehow holding out hope to see where her political future may be once Donald Trump finally goes, okay, Marjorie Taylor Greene is off. She's done. She's totally Antifa. She should probably watch her back now, because that's what this murderous regime of a presidency is about. It's opposition, and once you're that opposition, you're a terrorist. She's not going to be a blind slave, though. Did you notice the large mention she had in there? She said, I got this position without a Trump endorsement. Maybe that's where her beef is. Either way it is, it's always personal. It's either her kids and their lack of connections to things they can get, or it's that she won her seat and Trump didn't endorse her. The response and the vindictive nature that these folks have as far as being very selfish always shines through. But one last little clip from Marge. As I mentioned, the healthcare issue is one that they continue to lose. This is why it's really tough for them, and probably why they're pulling their hair out over Marjorie Taylor Greene, because she's exposing the way that they're approaching this, because she's a little bit harsh and straightforward. So now that she feels she's been cornered, this is where her harshness and straightforwardness is going.
And to allow Democrats to have some sort of moral high ground on this issue because they're the only ones talking about it, I think is a major failure from the Republican Party. And I'm not going to stand there and just keep talking the talking points when my own adult children can hardly afford health insurance premiums, when everyone in my district, it's the #1 issue that I hear about day in and day out, not just people on the ACA, but people that have private insurance as well. And I think it's something that we have to talk about. And I don't see why the government needs to be shut down. I really don't. I believe that if Republicans learn to govern and wield power, they can use the nuclear option in the Senate. They can open up the government. We can get back to work for the American people, and Republicans can solve this problem that is a very big problem that we can't ignore.
Well,
That's where I think she's still missing it. She, at least to news outlets, still lets them know that she believes this Republican Party can fix it. What would they be fixing, Marjorie? They'd be fixing the problem that you all signed on to create. This drumbeat of giving more money to corporations and destroying Americans' healthcare further. It's not like it was great. Destroying it even more. And when there was a 50% of a solution to it with the ACA, they attacked it consistently. But even if that goes away, which they're working to make go away, things will get worse. So congrats to Marjorie Taylor Greene for figuring out 3 things. But until she fully realizes that how she ushered us into this era wholeheartedly and energetically, I'm only gonna listen to her fight from her perspective. Have the fight, Marge. I appreciate you doing it, but this has nothing to do with endorsing her or sanitizing her image. We still know who Marjorie Taylor Greene is. How much is she talking about the occupations of our cities? How much is she talking about the indiscriminate destruction of people's homes as they break in and handcuffed and zip-tied Black children and separated them from their families? How much does she still not give a damn about certain Americans? She keeps bringing up her kids and their healthcare issues. If her kids didn't have those healthcare issues, I wonder how much she would care. Maybe she should apologize to them for being a part of this. Have that fight from, the not as extreme right as MAGA is, like 2 degrees in. That's the fight that she's having. Okay, guys. I got one last story. I'm up against the top of the hour. For those of you guys that are taking off for TDR, for a Friday TDR, I appreciate you. Love you. Hit the like button on your way out. Also share the stream. Let people know what's happening. If you enjoy it, go ahead and subscribe. Come back here, and we do it every day at noon. And also, we're going to put these up on the page as well, so you won't miss this last story necessarily if you come back and check it out later. So until then, appreciate you. See you guys. We're going to be here for another 15 minutes. As I got one last story about the economy. I got one last story about what they're telling you is going on with it. And also this bailout of Venezuela. Bro, I talked about it a week or 2 ago. It's now been finalized. We're going to get to that as well, too, in this particular story. Let's start with Brooke Rollins. Brooke Rollins is the ag secretary who's having to try and answer questions as to why Donald Trump is destroying the economy and somehow trying to tell us that everything is great. But what she now has to focus in on is the situation that these farmers are now in based off of Donald Trump's policies, but then still somehow try and spin this to mean that he's helping them when he's done nothing but hurt them. Here's Brooke Rollins.
Remember, I said to the farmers, buy larger tractors and more land. And that's exactly what happened. They did well. But we do suffer. I'd like you to discuss that maybe for a second, Brooke. Sure. Very quickly, by the way.
Yes.
But would you just talk about how Biden let us down? Biden, every single thing, every problem the farmer has is because Biden didn't do anything for 4 years. Go ahead.
This president has been unequivocal in his support of the farmers. First of all, in term 1, we worked on it so hard and opened up markets, but especially this term. But here's what everyone has to understand. The farm economy is in a very uncertain time, but that isn't because of the current trade negotiations, although certainly the China part is part of that. But we inherited a slew of issues.
Brooke Rollins was literally directed by Donald Trump to give the case for why it's still Joe Biden's fault that Donald Trump's tariff and trade war policies are screwing over farmers. That's what her job is. Her job is not to be the ag secretary. Her job is not to find the solutions to these problems. Her job is to continue to run cover for his failures. That's been the story of this guy's entire life. He's a failure. And now Brooke Rollins is the latest one to try and clean up his dirty diapers.
I want us to take a moment and realize I don't know that there's ever been a president in history, at least in modern history, that has spent so much time talking about our farmers, talking about soybeans. Yesterday, we had a big meeting in the Roosevelt Room about our beef industry. I mean, it is just incredible how focused and just supportive of our farmers and ranchers this president is. They just want to sell their product. They don't want checks from the government. But until we get there, all these new trade deals, opening up the markets by the president, onshoring our food supply for health reasons, but national security reasons. We will get there. But until then, we will continue. We're going to be announcing a program as soon as the shutdown ends on what we're going to do in the short term for these row croppers, including our soybean farmers.
Incredible what tariff revenue is doing, not just on the world stage when it comes to peace, but also there to fund programs that we might be losing amidst the government shutdown.
There was so much bullshit there. Brooke Rollins wants to tell the American people, and specifically farmers, that no other president has paid this much attention to farmers before, as he is destroying their lives. They really want you to stop believing that for all these months, as we've been talking about his policies and how to destroy small businesses, destroy farming businesses, how that has been locking in and taking place and coursing through the veins of this country, that now no other president pays as much attention to farmers and believes in them as much as this president. He's always on their side because of a bailout proposal now. And the bailout is coming because his policies screwed them up. They've all been saying it. These MAGA farmers have been like, man, I'm a little disillusioned by this. I can't understand how it is that I voted in this failure of a businessman who has really bad ideas. And every time someone told him it was a bad idea, he said, you're Antifa. You've got TDS. And then we just nod our heads and move right along. Well, your money's drying up, bro. And they have to start admitting the truth. So now there's a bailout on the horizon. Brooke Rollins wants to talk about a bailout that's now on the horizon. But somehow at the same time, it's a golden era for everybody. I'd never know how this works.
For our farmers in rural America, the trade renegotiations and the trade realignment that Jameson and Scott and Howard have led with the president's leadership is unlike anything that's happened in the history of our country. And those that will benefit the most are the original Americans, our farmers and our ranchers. The president has committed, if we need a bridge, he has talked about that to get us from the Biden years to the new Trump era. That's what we're working on every day. We've got to get the government reopened so that we can move forward on that. And once we do, we'll be able to move out a significant program to help our farmers. Long term, we have to change this hamster wheel of government. We've got to ensure that the farmers have the market to sell, and it's a national security issue and onshoring a lot of the food as well. So, sir, thank you.
Thank you, everybody. I think that's enough.
Thank you, Fred. Thank you, Fred. Thank you.
The country is doing very well. Thank you very much, everybody.
Brooke Rollins just said they need a bailout for farmers due to his tariff policies, but he wraps it up by saying the country's doing well. We just need that bridge between Biden and then now Trump after damn near the back end of this year. How long is this bridge going to get built? I mean, because I heard from Howard Nuttlick that it's going to be 6 more months from now. I'm sorry, a year from now. Oh, kicking at the beginning of next year. No one knows. And what proof, what kind of evidence, what kind of policy approach, what kind of even conversation does Brooke Rollins said that she's had to give her the confidence to believe that we're headed to this golden age where we need these new opportunities in exports for farmers? New opportunities in exports for farmers? They just cut off one of the biggest ones for soybean farmers. Where else is it going? By the way, it's going to Argentina, which I'm gonna get to in a second. But speaking of exports and the golden age, these are the people that she's having to try and cover for. She has to come up with some kind of clear statement that clears this up.
Export. Look, we have the ultimate export. We have import, and we have export.
We are just broadly in the most beautiful place for the American people we've been, I think, ever with respect to trade.
The president of the United States said we have the best kind of export ever, and it's import and export. Does that sound like somebody who knows what they're doing? Does that sound like somebody you should trust? Because it's the same guy who said tariffs are paid by the country that imports the goods. So now that that's all blown up in his face, how much do you hear him saying that now? Now we're talking about bailouts. Now we're talking about bridges to the next aspect of his economic strategy. But we're still talking about golden eras and how great we're doing, how we're the hottest country in the world. Are you that stupid? Here's an Iowa farmer. Speaking of bailouts and new avenues to sell some crops, he was asked about how happy they are to be receiving any bailout money. Pay attention to who this bailout money may be going to.
There are reports that a Trump administration bailout of farmers, and apparently it's going to be mostly these soybean producers, but this is in the works and it could be around $10 to $14 billion in aid. Do you think that's enough? And does that address the underlying issue here?
Well, it certainly won't make farmers whole, right? It will help when it is a bandage on a bad wound, but it certainly doesn't fix the problem. It doesn't address the wound, but we do want to help farmers who are in this situation through no fault of their own. But there are long-term impacts that are very, very dangerous. We also know that when aid packages were rolled out 5 years ago, many farmers who were in need at that time didn't receive any of the aid package. And some of the largest multinational corporations in the world receive the largest payments. And that doesn't make sense, and it only causes more divisions between our farming operations. Our small and medium-sized operations are in need of that assistance, and getting it to the right place so it can have the right impact on the farm and in our fields is extremely important.
They're proposing $10 to $14 billion of this bailout to certain farmers. He even pointed out how it doesn't fix the problem because they've screwed up their operations, their ability to do business. None of it changes. It's window dressing. And $10 to $14 billion, where's that coming from? Where is it coming from? It's coming from the same people who pay taxes, who also have higher prices because of these tariff policies, that he's siphoning more money from us to give to these folks to act like they've done anything. And if you believe this Iowa farmer, he pointed out that that last farming bailout aid money came during Trump's first term. It's odd how he keeps having to bail out the people that they keep saying he does the most for. But the last time that happened, he said it didn't even go to the people who need it the most, the small to mid-sized farms. It went to corporations, large corporate farmers. It's almost like it's an oligarchy of fascists running this country. Everything they do takes more money from us and gives it to their corporate buddies. In whatever kind of window dressing they want to do it as, it gives it right back to them. Which leads me to this. You guys remember a week or two ago, we're bailing out Argentina to the tune of $20 billion because that new president that they propped up there, Javier Milei, how he's screwed things up and he's running their country just like Elon Musk and Donald Trump started with running this country, and how they destroyed the economy. So they're out to save his ass, but it's not just because of him. They're out to save all of them and Scott Bessent's buddies that invested in that country to destroy it. And now that it's been destroyed, you got to save it with whose money? American money.
The U.S. bailout of Argentina has been finalized. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent announced today that the United States directly purchased Argentine pesos as part of a $20 billion currency swap. But he insists the deal is not a bailout. So let's make something clear. Downplaying it as merely a swap agreement, exchanging pesos for dollars to stabilize their economy, well, at the very least, that is not the full picture. Now, we might not be writing a direct $20 billion check to Argentina, but we are still taking enormous risk to help out a friend of the president who's up for re-election in a country that is in trouble. That's this guy right there on your screen, handing Elon Musk a bedazzled chainsaw. And Argentina is not a top trading partner for us. What is this? It is a massive loan. And if Argentina does default, and they may, it is a $20 billion loss for us. The Fed will be left holding a ginormous bag of pesos worth nothing. So you could call it a hidden bailout or a direct bailout. This is a huge win for Argentina, its president, and the group of U.S. investors Secretary Bessent knows very well who bet big on Argentina.
And as I pointed out before, one of those buddies of Scott Bessent is another hedge fund guy. They came up together, and he's bailing his ass out. I remember when Biden was in office, and they were talking about student loan forgiveness, and conservatives were pulling their damn hair out for American students, former students. And now that we're giving $20 billion to bail out this guy because Scott Bessent and other billionaire, rich, connected people need it because they suck at what they do. There's no questions. Where are the angry folks in the streets talking about how we can't afford to give other people money? We can't afford to do it. We have our own problems here at home. The problems they care about are saving their own asses from all the mistakes they make because they're wild with the things they do. When there's no accountability and there's zero consequence for your entire life, you end up being a Scott Bessent, you end up being a Donald Trump, you end up being a Howard Lutnick. They all suck at what they do, but there's no consequences. They just take more money from us to bail themselves out, even internationally. So you know what Javier Milei has been doing ever since he got his $20 billion? I had to double check this because I didn't think this was real. Javier Milei, this new president of Argentina that we just bailed out because he sucked and he did everything Elon Musk does here. I'm not lying to you. This is him on stage at his political party's party.
Espero que alguna vez al ver sus ojos venir alguna noche lloré. Mi boca no hay control, me voy cayendo a sus pies. Las piernas son un abrigo, al menos no moriré. Si todo me sale bien, lo haré de nuevo otra vez.
What the fuck was that? Javier Milei is having a party, bro. I mean, you would too. If somebody handed me $20 billion for fucking up and failing, man, I would have a party too. I'd be like, man, I'm above everything, man. I sucked. The political opposition in my country is coming after me. It's pretty obvious I suck. Yet the United States bailed my ass out, and they're going to continue to assist me because I've gotten in bed with them and allowed them to take over and do whatever they want in this country. Let's have a party where I growl and roar into a microphone. I'm not like I said, I had to look that up. I was like, there's no way this is real. There's no way the guy who siphoned $20 million out of our pockets to then try and save him and his political career, and then right after that, promised those same one of the exports of all these soybeans that Donald Trump cut off of farmers here to China, how they swapped and made a deal with China to sell their soybeans to them instead. He kicked Donald Trump's ass twice, but you know, nobody sees that as a failure. They see that as helping out more billionaires that are in desperate need. Like I said, I had to read up on it to make sure that it was true. So surrounded by a crowd of 15,000 that included political allies and young supporters, Milei swapped his trademark chainsaw for a microphone as he sought to energize his base ahead of the October 26th legislative elections and put behind him a controversy surrounding the resignation of one of the ruling party's big-name candidates. This guy has a lot of things going on. So this was some party for their particular political party, they called La Libertad Avanza Party. So that's their political party, at least their wing of the political party, I think. And he's covering up some other issues that are going on with this, I guess, rock concert. Here's some of the issues that they were just talking about. Jose Luis Esper was running for a seat in Argentina's lower house of Congress representing Buenos Aires province, a key region for the ruling La Libertad Avanza party. He stepped down on Sunday amid allegations that he received a payment from a drug trafficker, but he denied any wrongdoing. Milei made no explicit mention of the controversy while he's on stage roaring, but he did physically embrace Diego Santilli, who has stepped in to replace Esper on the campaign trail. There's way too many similarities here. So one of his buddies was busted taking a sack of cash, or was it the payment for drug trafficking? We have Tom Homan here that was caught on video, apparently, taking a sack of cash to bribing some groups that he's going to make some money off of his mass deportation policies, and we're supposed to just let that go. But as that guy stepped aside, which Tom Homan definitely won't, they ignored it and instead had a roaring rock concert instead. This is what this event was supposed to be before it turned into that annoying sound. So what was billed as the launch of Milei's latest book, this was supposed to be a book tour, the construction of the miracle that morphed into a mystical spectacle broadcast live on state TV that included members of Milei's ruling coalition performing 9 rock covers. So look forward to, whenever they need to try and salvage our country here now, this MAGA party trying to salvage its reputation. I guess on Fox News, they'll have wall-to-wall coverage of the MAGA party's rock concert to distract you from the fact that, you're having to go to long lines to hand out for some bread and water after he's destroyed this country to the extent that he's looking to destroy it. That is, and if you say, I don't like this, and they consider you Antifa and throw you in jail or just kill you because they'll call you a terrorist. Happy Friday, everyone. Glad you hung around. Aren't you glad you hung around? If nothing else, at least for Milei's rock party that he had in celebration of stealing $20 billion from us to save Scott Bessent and his buddies' asses. Go watch that video. It's got to be only a certain number, 5 to 7, 8 videos back. How they're using us and how Scott Bessent literally had on his phone the message from the ag secretary saying, Argentina just kicked our asses. They undercut us after all this money we're giving them. He doesn't care. Anyways, good job, you guys. My dog is barking. I'll see you guys on Monday. I hope you can enjoy your weekend to whatever extent you can. I'm going to shut this dog up real quick. But if nothing else, have a wonderful weekend. Tell John and TDR crew I say hey. I think Brett's there today too. We'll see you guys on Monday. See you, Ma.